Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Hope you're well. Hope you've listened to a lot of music, that you're discovering music all the time. This is another installment of Revolutions. Nothing too mind-blowing here. Appreciate you leaving some comments and talking to me. Obviously, as per usual, I repeat that all the time, but that's why I do it for. I'm going to start with some classical. I've got some classical in front of me. This is Eric Satie, pièce pour piano à quatre mains, pieces for four-handed piano, so it's two pianists playing at the same time. Yuki Takahashi and Alain Planes, whose name appears here. And so they're playing the pieces together. It's fairly avant-garde, this piece, fairly sort of, just very untypical Satie. There's also some clarinet to be heard here, and there's a little bit of, can't remember if there's a little bit of organ as well. But it's not your straight ahead Satie, which is very sort of palatable, very melodic, It's got a lot of it's got a lot happening on this. So if you want some more adventurous Satie, I would recommend this. I continue with this monster. This is the Loud Minority, Frank Foster. This is free jazz, spiritual jazz, avant-garde jazz ensemble. I mean, you look at the players, it's just amazing. Cecil Bridgewater, Marvin Peterson is there, Stanley Clark, Gene Perler, who I mislabeled last time as a drummer. He's a bass player, in fact. Ian Hammer plays on this, Alvin Jones, Ayrton Moreira, and the vocals of Dee Bridgewater. I picked up this recent reissue at the local store for a really good discounted price. It was in the bargain bin because, well, no one bought it. And my friend Cedric, who was here a few weeks ago, that's the first dig we had together, and he said, you should get this. This is really good. And I agree. It's a wild ride. This record is like explosive. If you do like your spiritual jazz, really in your face, very energetic, really, really complex and dynamic, then this is a very good record to put on. Sorry, I'm not very articulate, but I'll try my best. I was chatting with my German friend Tamo. Tamo, if you're watching, you will be watching, and we just messaged records, like what we're playing at the moment on WhatsApp. Basically, this is what I'm playing, and he put up a picture of the latest Cleo Soul record. This is not her latest one. That's the one from 2020. So Cleo Soul is a UK soul singer, R&B soul singer, and she's a member of the forward-thinking, very mysterious project Salt, which I'll talk about in a second as well. And this is the record that she put out under her own name, also produced by Inflow, who is the producer for all the Salt stuff. Not much is known about Soul. They don't really advertise anything, but their records are all really very, very interesting. And they've released a lot of things, and they're future classics in my opinion. And this is totally a future classic. It's just such an inventive, melodic, memorable piece of music. It's so well produced. It's slick, but not in a sort of cheesy way. The opener, One Love, sets the tone of this. It's very, very high quality R&B. and I think a lot of people would enjoy this. And I was also playing. I also pulled out this one of the two albums that they put out in 2020, two masterpieces, Blackies Untitled and Blackies, with a bit of Basquiat inside. This whole package, this is just an absolute back to front killer record in my opinion. And the other one with which is called, I think it's one of them is called Untitled and one of them is called Blackies, I think. This is Blackies. This just the highest grade of funk and soul, and these guys are from Bristol, I think, and you just wonder how, and that's what I was saying with Tamo when we were talking, saying you just sit, listen, and you just can't believe how many songs, where those songs come from, how they keep producing these albums. Essential in my opinion, and a future classic for sure. In a different style, I hadn't revisited this record for a long time. This is the Fourway Werewolf. The Fourway was a jazz fusion group from the US, featuring Mike Knock who was from New Zealand, on Fender Rhodes, but the great Michael White on electric violin, Ron McClure on bass, and Eddie Marshall on drums. We don't talk enough about the Fourway. The Fourway is one of these bands that just completely slipped under the radar of jazz and funk. And so this was recorded in the Montreux Festival 1970 in Switzerland, and is really lo-fi in the recording, but they play so well together that it almost doesn't matter. It's kind of like, it's grainy a little bit when you listen to it, but it doesn't even come into force. These guys can just, they can funkify the fusion really, really well. I don't know if you've never heard of the Fourway. I think of Chris Cole when I think of this, because I think he was the one to send me this record. And I still have it, so thank you, Chris. In a totally different style, I was compelled to listen to some Coil. Now, admittedly, I don't have a lot of Coil. It's a band that has intrigued me for years, but I've picked up bits and pieces here and there. But Music to Play in the Dark is surely one of their masterpieces. This is the reissue from a couple of years back, from 1999. This original LP was released. Very sort of, it's an electronic, spacey electronic ambient record. At times quite sort of brooding and dark, and you can feel the abyss at times when you listen to this. But I just feel that it's a record that I go back to quite often, and it's really quite mysterious. I find this record. So yeah, Coil. In a totally different style now. Good old Dillinger. It's pretty nice and sunny here in Melbourne, so this kind of music works well with the weather. This is CB200, which came out in 1980, thereabouts. Includes the fantastic single Cocaine in My Brain, which in the sleeve I actually do carry the 7, which is super cool really, with the even cooler B-side Funky Punk, which I bought in Germany back when. And yeah, he sort of straddled the line between toasting and, it's really a toasting LP, but it's got more structure, I think, in parts. It has got Sly and Robbie on this, and Earl China on guitar, and Family Man on bass. Like it's a who's who again of you know, the usual suspects of reggae. With almost the same cover as the Dillinger, we have Cluster 2, which I've revisited this week due to having seen Noi, Michael Michael Rotter last week, Harmonia Noi, that led me into Cluster. This is Cluster 2, number 2, which is very, again, I'd say very ominous, very sort of dark and somber, progressive electronic record, ambient, but also it's heavy. This record, like you listen to it, and there's a heaviness that is really kind of obvious when you play this. It's not light like, for example, Tsukuzait, the follow-up, or even Zovi Zozo, which is the one after. They're lighter records. They're more playful. This one is very serious. But yeah, just love this album. It's just, you just gotta give it time. From 1972, I think, originally on Brain. This is a reissue. And since I was listening to Cluster, it made me want to play a little bit of Yoshimura Green. And I see that they've just reissued Surround, which, I don't know, I'm still in two minds about picking up. I think it could be a good addition to my collection, for sure, but you know, how many ambient records can you have? Question mark. I mean, some people would say not enough. This is a wonderful record. This is just super light and atmospheric and just gentle. You know, you get these like, you know, because he's recorded nature sounds there as well as the keyboards, and you know, it's just a gentle Sunday morning kind of listen. You know, it transports you into a universe of its own. Green, and this is obviously a reissue on Lights in the Attic when they reissued this a couple of years ago, 2020. I might get Surround because it's good, but but I'm not sure yet. I was chatting with Stanty, and we were talking about Philip Coran, and this made me want to pull out some Philip Coran. I've got a few of his albums. This is Kalen Philip Coran and the Hypnotic Brass Ensemble, which is basically his sons, his kids. He's got like 8 or 9 kids, and they all play in the band. And he plays all sorts of really, you know, from, you know, zither to electric kalimba, which is called a francophone. It's the one that he made up himself. This, I will say, has a very, very much Ethio jazz kind of vibe. Super, super Ethio jazz. Like when I listen to this, it just brings me to Mulatto, especially. So if that's your thing, this record, you know, wouldn't be a bad addition. That came out on Honest John's, 2011. Wow, already, all these years ago. Very, very warmly recommended record. I was watching Dom's video yesterday. He put a video, and he was talking about this record here. I love this record personally. This is JKenco or JK and Company. The album is called Suddenly One Summer. It's an album I discovered off the back of an article from Mojo in about 1999, which I immediately found fascinating due to the backstory of this kid. He's a 15-year-old, and this was conceived on the trip across America, and I mean it's unbelievable that like a 15-year-old wrote, produced, and recorded this. I find mind-blowing, and captivated straight away by the opener Fly, which is just one of the most beautiful psychedelic songs that you ever hear. To me, this remains a firm favorite of US psych. Very, very, very highly recommended for me. Now I bought 2001 Sundazed reissue. I've never had an original of this, but this sounds perfectly fine. I replayed it this morning, and although the originals of these now are just worth so much money, but I just wanted to highlight it. It's a very nice record. This morning I also chucked on this beautiful Nucleus Elastic Rock on the turntable. I think it's my favorite record by Nucleus. Now, if you don't know Nucleus, there's a UK jazz rock band from the 70s led by Ian Carr. They're sort of squarely fall in the sort of jazz fusion, jazz rock kind of cross-section of the UK scene. They have more in common with bands like Placebo and Cortex than with, say, the Don Rendell quintet or whatnot. It's funky fusion at times. There's lots of like beautiful electric piano playing there, and this is just super, super dope, this record. I've loved it for years and years. It's got Chris Spedding on guitar, Carl Jenkins on baritone, oboe, and electric piano, Jeff Marshall on drums. 1970. It's a masterpiece. This is an original Japanese pressing, which is really cool. Nice record. And then just a couple of CDs that I've been playing here and there. This really great album, Colin Walcott supporting the great Steve Eliovson, Dawn Dance on ECM. Surely an obscure classic. This record is a masterclass in acoustic guitar, basically. So Steve Eliovson is, I think he was South African from memory. Correct me if I'm wrong. He's just a wizard on the acoustic guitar, kind of like a sort of John McLaughlin, Ralph Towner of sorts. Very, very deft. And he's backed with Colin Walcott on percussion. It's the only album he made for ECM, and then he died. 1981. Superb recording. Just wanted to spotlight that for a second. And last night, I played this for some reason. One of the last Mars records, Aura, which I find really, really engaging, actually. It's got some beautiful, again, we're talking about John McLaughlin. I think he appears on this, on guitar. Just a nice Mars record. And I'll finish with this trio of records inspired by the Album Years podcast, Stephen Wilson and what's his name? The other guy. I've listened to so many episodes, I should know straight away. Stephen Wilson and you'll know what I'm talking about. His colleague in the band No Man, and they were talking about the year 1987, which is a great year in music, and they made me listen to Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me by the Cure again, which I hadn't played for ages. So they were talking about it in the podcast. I thought, I got to pull this out. It's just one that, and very highly rate this record. I thought, well, let's just give it another go. And it's true that it's a very sort of earthy sound. It's kind of muted and depressed, They were saying in the podcast that Disintegration is too produced and they don't like it for that reason. I kind of disagree. I love Disintegration as well, but this one has got hits like, obviously, what's on this? Why Can't I Be You and Just Like Heaven, obviously one of my favorite Cure songs. But then, just the opener, The Kiss, is, gosh, it's great. Um, they spotlighted this album, which I think everybody should hear. I think it's an absolute favorite of mine. Jane Siberry, The Walking. Jane Siberry is kind of a very, very, very difficult artist to actually box, because this record is a little bit like a sort of like a Kate Bush record mixed with a little bit of Meredith Monk, with a sort of Peter Gabriel kind of sensibility there somewhere. It's closest to Kate Bush, I'd say. It's just a smoking record. It's a record you can find for next to nothing, and I bet you've been in bins where you've flicked through this and you've just passed it. It's just and they were talking about it with such love on the podcast, and I thought to myself, I've got to listen to Jane Siberry again. It's the only Jane Siberry album I have, and I've sort of always wondered what it'd be like to listen to other albums from a discography, but this is so strong that you feel like anything else is going to be a little bit more of a come down compared to this. This came out in 1987, indeed, and it is just a masterclass in songwriting, arranging. All the songs are pretty much memorable. Again, I always talk about the opener, but the opener sets the tone of a lot of records. The White Tender Raft, Goodbye, Ingrid, which is the last song on side one, and the last song, The Bird in the Gravel, by God, is epic. So yeah, this is this kind of art pop, ambient pop sensibility. She's from Canada, Jane Siberry. If you ever see this record in the bin, do not hesitate. If you like Kate Bush, you would have no regret. And another record that was kind of inspired to me this one is not from 1987, but it was kind of like in the same kind of realm as Cowboy Junkies, The Caution Horses, which I had also for years, and is just a wonderful album. I like it just as much, if not at times even more, than the Trinity Session. It's just a great collection of songs, and Margot sings so well on this. And everybody quotes the Trinity Session because it's raw and it's got this kind of like, X factor about it. But this is just as good, The Caution Horses. And the last album I want to discuss with you today is inspired by, again, I was talking about Cedric before, and he was texting me earlier today, and he was asking me about this record, which is just a classic in the bargain bins in Australia, all over Australia and all that jazz. Just a superb cheap heat, 100% cheap heat record about, Australian wildlife and Australian fauna and flora, but done by a cast of like killer musicians led by John Sangster, who plays the vibraphone. But this is like a modal jazz, just tour de force, absolutely essential. I think I sent a copy of this to Chris Cole years and years ago. It has just a really great cast of fantastic musicians of the scene. George Gorley on guitar, Don Burrows on flute, Ed Gaston on double bass. Errol Buddle. They're just legends, and I think this record gets often dismissed because it looks like nothing, but it's one of the best things you can buy if you're ever in Australia. So that's it. I will stop here. I hope you enjoy this installment. Wasn't very much, but Jane Siberry.